Hello, this is Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology. You're watching a series of lectures in a course called Faith, Knowledge, and Reason. This course deals with the philosophical tradition insofar as it influences theological thinking. And of course, classical theologians knew the philosophical tradition deeply. And this contributed, of course, to what they were saying, how they said it, what they thought they could say on the basis of other things that they've said. And oftentimes we read theology without reading enough philosophy to kind of fill in that lacuna, to kind of figure out why a theologian might be arguing a particular way. We don't really recognize it because we don't know the tradition of philosophy anymore as they did. So, at the Institute of Lutheran Theology, we have courses, a couple courses dealing with the philosophical tradition insofar as it affects theology, and we here at the Institute believe that the study of philosophy makes us better theologians. Okay? So now today we're talking about the thought of Gottfried Leibniz, the great German philosopher who lived from 1646 to 1716. An amazing person known as the last universal genius, right? He contributed huge contributions in metaphysics, in logic, in epistemology, in the philosophy of religion, in mathematics, in physics, in geology, in law, and in history. And you know what? He never had a university position. He worked as a diplomat most of his life, and he was able to do this exceptionally creative thinking after he's done with his day job oftentimes. He was born 2 years before the end of the 30 Years' War. So all of you can now figure out, well, let's see, the 30 Years' War ended in 1648, and if it was 30 years, well, that must be 1618, see? So now we've solved for the dates of the 30 Years' War. He was born into a Lutheran family, and his father practiced law and taught moral philosophy. When he was young, he read ancient history and the church fathers in his father's library. He lost his father, but he would go into the library and read these things. Quite an amazing person he was. He began his education at the University of Leipzig, and there he wrote his first philosophical treatise called De Principio Individui, which means concerning the principle of individuation, right? And this was certainly something that he thought about throughout his life. What is it to individuate one thing over and against another thing? What makes one thing and not another thing? Then he went to the University of Altdorf, which means old village, right? Where he wrote his Dissertatio de Arte Combinatoria. That's his dissertation on the art of combinations. And yes, he is a great thinker who thought very deeply about combinations, if you've ever studied that in mathematics. A set of 5 things taken 2 at a time, or a set of 5 things taken 4 at a time, a set of 9 things taken 3 at a time. Think about Leibniz. He was thinking about these things back in the 17th century. In 1667, he secured a position with the Elector of Mainz, and he went to Paris in 1672 and conversed extensively with the great minds of the time. And of course, this was great. He was sent there as part of his duties, his diplomatic duties. So he gets to go to Paris and hang out with Antoine Arnauld, Nicolas Malebranche, and Christian Huygens. All great and important thinkers of the day. Then he found a position with the librarian of the Duke of Brunswick out in Hanover, great town. And then he met Spinoza for 3 days in 1677 from November 18th to November 21st. Of course, this is towards the end of Spinoza's life. He corresponded with 1,100, now think of that, 1,100 different people throughout his life. Many of his great thoughts are in his letters, and they're only beginning, all to be known and cataloged, so that we can get an understanding of his metaphysical development from these letters. He worked full-time at the library and as privy councillor at the court of Hanover. And somehow, doing all this, he completed a staggering amount of first-class work. Now, things didn't always go so well with him. He was accused of stealing the infinitesimal calculus from Isaac Newton. Although he developed it independently from Newton. Newton had developed it but didn't publish as quickly as Leibniz did on it. But if you've done calculus and you do your little, dx, dt, that little stuff there, right? That's the notation that we get from Leibniz. So our calculus notation goes back to Leibniz. He was mocked as being old-fashioned at the court because he wore his wig, and he died in November of 1716. And one of the great tragedies of history, perhaps, is that he died alone. Funeral, nobody came. So one of the greatest minds in all of Europe and all of history, at the end stands alone, goes to his grave by himself. Chronology of his major writings, you can look this up, but his meditations on knowledge, truth, and ideas came in 1684. His important discourse on metaphysics in 1686. Then some correspondence with Arnauld the same year. His work on primary truths in 1689, 1695. His new system, as it was called. Also, that was a big year. He published his Specimen Dynamicum, 1697 on the ultimate origin of things, 1698 on nature itself. So he's kind of dealing with big issues, right? His correspondence with de Volder, which was important for understanding him, 1699. New essays on human understanding, 1704. Correspondence with de Bosset in 1706. His Theodicy. So there's a little book out that you can pick up, Theodicy, Leibniz in Monadology in 1714, and short, not that technical. His Principles of Nature and Grace in 1714, and then correspondence with Clarke has been published in 1715. So this is what Leibniz was about. What were those issues that motivated him? Well, he certainly had a background in Aristotelianism and Platonism and Orthodox Christianity, but he was responding to the threats of materialism, atheism, and what he saw as necessitarianism. If you remember our lectures from Descartes believed that the nature of body is to be extended, and all of that is subject to immutable, deterministic, mechanical laws. So anything that shows up as a body is necessarily caused by other things to do what it does. We'll come back with more on Leibniz in a moment. I'm Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology, and come right back. Thank you.